Ladies and gentlemen, when the reality of their nonsense is thrust upon them, that sounds interesting. When the reality of their propaganda is seen in a different light, where they have to defend their own actions, what they do is they say, well, the Steele Dossier is very different. No. The Golden Moo didn't work with a foreign power. You see, what she did was funnel money through her law firm. And her law firm outsourced Fusion GPS, who then outsourced Christopher Steele and Orbis, his company, who then compiled the dossier because he was this big, the big guy at MI6, at the Russian desk, the department that focused on Putin. And he used his contacts, or he actually used, according to Vanity Fair, an active Russian intelligence officer, in addition to people who are government officials within the Russian government, in addition to people with ties to the Kremlin, to compile a dossier that is completely and utterly not only debunked, a garbage document, according to Bob Woodward, who is like hardcore, like establishment guy now. The days of Watergate where, well, anyway, whatever. That was a whole... John Dean actually helped obstruct justice, helped Nixon pay off people who committed crimes, and then said, you know what, it's getting too hot in here, and then flipped. Anyway, now he's the big hero who testified about the Mueller probe. It's like, what are you doing? What really? What does this have to do? Anyway, I'm going to read you PolitiFact. William Barr knows exactly why PolitiFact, and the interesting thing is, the PolitiFact nonsense here is indicative of how they warp and twist things. George Stephanopoulos basically asked President Trump, what if a foreign power came to you and said that Clinton was committing crimes? Number one, a foreign power never went to Trump or anyone in his campaign. We know this because the Mueller report says there is no evidence to charge anyone in the Trump campaign with a campaign finance violation. It literally says that on page 17. And there's no evidence to charge anyone with... the evidence was not sufficient. So they didn't say no evidence, but they said not sufficient. So in the minds of liberals, there's still some evidence, but not in a criminal way. They're all over the place. They can't admit that they've lived a fantasy for 2+ years. But the evidence was not sufficient to charge anyone with interfering in the election, the 2016 election. Anyone in the Trump campaign or President Trump himself. It says that on page 17. But now you have George Stephanopoulos, who's like, well, if you're approached by foreign nationals, will you rebuff their advances? Stephen Halper, Joseph Mifsud, all of these people were utilized to set and frame Trump, while Clinton actually did work with foreign intelligence. Now, I'll read you what PolitiFact says, and then I'll read you what the Steele Dossier... Here, you know what? I'll read you what PolitiFact says. How the two are different. Experts we spoke to, they didn't call Dan Bongino, Victoria Tenzing, Joe DeGeneva, Paul Sperry, John Solomon, Tom Fitton, Kimberly Strassel, Sarah Carter. They didn't call Black Conservative Patriot. They didn't call me. They didn't call anyone with a differing opinion that differs. Not only an opinion that differs, they didn't call anyone that actually speaks the truth. The truth is that Trump was framed and set up. They utilized a dossier that was complete nonsense, that nothing is accurate, because the dossier doesn't say, well, the Russians interfered, which we don't even know if they did. We have no clue if the DNC was even hacked. We're relying on CrowdStrike. The United States government never looked at the actual servers. CrowdStrike was also outsourced by the Democratic Party. But when we have no clue how many people had their votes altered, we have no clue. She won the popular vote. So they're all over the place in terms of their propaganda. But the Steele Dossier makes specific claims of Manafort, Flynn, who's an honorable man who should be pardoned and cleared immediately, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, all meeting with Russian intelligence officials, with Michael Cohen in Prague. These are specific claims that have never happened, that have never taken place. The Steele Dossier is a whole compilation of nonsensical fantasy that is inspired by Bill Clinton. That's what I'm talking about. I love bodily fluids. Inspired by Bubba Bill. Not by anyone in the Trump campaign. But how the two are different? Well, how is the Steele Dossier different from a hostile foreign nation reaching out to Trump about dirt on Hillary? Well, number one, isn't it interesting how George Stephanopoulos doesn't worry about the dirt? Isn't it interesting how, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, my segments are doing so well because of you. We're growing. We're growing again. We're growing again. That's what I'm talking about. Don't get me started about growing. Oh no. Need to control myself. This channel is growing again, just like it was when it first started, like in 2016. I mean, I want to thank you, and just so you know, I mean, you already know this, but around 12 to 2 p.m. Pacific, it will be my first segment of the day. 5 hours later, 3 to 5 hours later, my second segment, and then 3 to 5 hours later after that, my third segment. So I'm doing 3 segments a day, and they'll run close to 30 minutes. But just to let you know, it's 3 segments a day, basically. If you're in the West Coast, late morning, early afternoon, and then late afternoon, early evening, and then late evening. And then you can just, if you're on the East Coast, those are the time periods. I just want to let you know. So check the channel those 3 times, and I want to thank you for all your support. We're almost at 150,000 subs. We're going to be at around 200 before the election, which will be fantastic. And everything that I've been saying and you've been saying, our voices, not just my voice, not just my writing that was shared to millions of people by Rush Limbaugh, that's below in the pinned comment, my latest Federalist article. But our voices are not only being heard, but vindicated every single day. The people who committed crimes, set and framed President Trump, will be eventually indicted. And eventually, because Hillary Clinton is running again in 2020, you heard it here first, the golden muumuu will levitate once again. Madam Cyberhack is running. After she loses, because she will lose, again, it'll be glorious, fantastic, Clinton will eventually get indicted. But that's after a whole bunch of people get charged. I explained in my Federalist article, the 18 U.S. Code 371, that that Comey, Strzok, McCabe, and others will eventually be charged under. But here's PolitiFact. How the two are different. Experts we spoke to described a range of differences between the type of information Trump said he would accept and what Clinton's campaign was paying Fusion GPS for. Now you have to understand something. there are no differences. In fact, the definition of accepting information from a foreign country or power or whatever is purchasing the Steele Dossier. Clinton had no clue if Christopher Steele worked for Russia or the UK or any country. Okay, that's number one. He was a former spy. Okay, it's like number two. He literally stated in the dossier that the dossier was compiled with help from an active Russian intelligence officer. What does that tell you? Okay, number three. Just because she funneled money through her law firm doesn't mean that it's just the same thing. When Uranium One executives funnel money into the Clinton Foundation, everyone's like, no, Golden Moo clean. Golden Moo shiny. No problem. You see, because it wasn't shoved into her pocket, the Moo pocket. It went to the Clinton Foundation. So therefore, she had nothing to do with it. And then with Clinton, there is the plausible deniability is alive and strong always with Democrats. You can't prove that money from the Uranium One executives influenced the uranium sale, or President Obama in not vetoing the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity to Putin. You can't prove that UBS giving millions into the Clinton Foundation and then in speaking arrangements to Bill Clinton, influenced Secretary Clinton while she was Secretary of State to help them out with the IRS. You can't prove that Boeing giving money into the Clinton Foundation helped Clinton, as Secretary of State, push for a deal in Russia. You can't prove that the $10 billion raised for Haiti was done simply to help the Clinton Foundation forge new contacts with wealthy individuals and corporations at the expense of the people of Haiti. So they utilized the disaster and earthquake to grow their network of donors. You can't prove that weapons deals were exponentially increased because of money into the Clinton Foundation from countries that have human rights violations. You can't prove anything. There wasn't a letter. You can't prove that there wasn't a letter signed, say, hey, well, here's the money, hook us up. You can't prove that Hillary Clinton had servers, numerous ones, outside of the United States government and intentionally transferred top secret and special access program intelligence. You can't prove that. Where's the note signed that showed her intent? So she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know what she was doing, and James Comey, she would never hurt the country. She was just doing it for, it was convenient. She didn't. You have no clue that she was deleting 30,000 emails for personal, because they had to do with the Clinton Foundation, pay-to-play bribery schemes. You see where I'm going? I know it's annoying, but it has to be said in that manner. With Trump, Manafort purchased an ostrich feather jacket. He's spooning with Putin. Trump and Putin have a romantic relationship. Yes, it's true. Papadopoulos had drinks with Alexander Dumbo Downer. That's me. That means that Putin and Trump are going to elope. What? How do you come to that conclusion? It's there. There is suspicion. The British informed us. There's so much suspicion. And the intelligence community wouldn't lie. These are great people. You don't trust the FBI? The other day, very intelligent. One of the most intelligent people I've ever known in my life. One of the most amazing people ever said to me, you don't trust the FBI? I'm like, no, I don't. Not maybe, they're good people, but not James Comey. No, sorry. You don't. So you trust President Trump? I'm like, well, yeah, in this case, yeah, much more than Comey. Then I have another great, person I know. You trust Putin, but not the intelligence? Well, if Putin said, breathe air, it's good for you, what are you going to do? Hold your breath? Forever? It's like, Putin also eats food and, sleeps, he's a human being. What are you going to do? Well, and what is the crime here? What's going on here? They're worried about, Democrats are worried that Trump will do to them what they did to him. Again, if you've lasted this long, Democrats are worried that Trump will do to them what they did to him. The difference is that he has the law on his side. The rule of law, that phrase you use from Democrats, must be upheld by putting Democrats, by indicting people like James Comey. But here, the main difference is the role of a foreign government. Here we have, Director of Center of National Security at Fordham Law. Fine, great. They always find, like, left-leaning, working hand-in-hand with a foreign power for information intended to influence an election is different than hiring a private firm that then hired somebody who had been a former intelligence agency agent. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not different at all. It's not different at all, because you wouldn't have a... First of all, if you had a state official, like, Prime Minister, if you had Theresa May in a private discussion with Trump, which is what happened, almost certainly. Hey, you know what? Yeah, Brandon did a whole bunch of, bad things. Nobody would know. Nobody would know. So, what are you going to do? Go call Christopher Wray if you're President Trump? Christopher Wray? Hi. Christopher. Yes, I just heard that I was set up and framed by Clapper and Brennan and Comey. Is that okay? Can I tell William Barr and John Durham? Oh, no, I can't? Okay, no problem. What do you expect Trump to do? They were the ones who were tipped off by GCHQ, and this is according to The Guardian. They were the ones who utilized the Steele Dossier. What were they supposed to do? They were the ones who conspired against Trump, set up and framed everyone around him, unmasked names, engaged in wiretaps of everyone he spoke to, and got him on incidental communication. So guess what? His phones were tapped. Because when he called people whose phones were tapped, guess what happened to his phone? It was also caught up. So when people were like, the left and Democrats and Adam Schiff, like, could you believe that he accused President Obama of tapping his phone? Yeah, well, okay. Trump's cell wasn't being recorded. Big deal. When he spoke to Manafort, when he spoke to Flynn, when he spoke to, if he spoke to Carter Page or anyone else around him whose phones were being recorded, he was being recorded. Okay, at that moment, his phone was being tapped. But that, you see, again, they're so vile, they're so insidious that they don't care. They just don't care. They have this lust for political influence and power. They don't care. But here, what Clinton did was she purchased a dossier that compiled by Russian government officials. And it doesn't matter whether she went through 20 people. The fact of the matter is, Democrats and media will say, well, there's one degree, or there's a corporation separating them. With Trump, they don't make that. The plausible deniability is there is no such thing with Trump. Everything he does is linked to, a grandiose plot. But here, everybody does opposition research. The issue here is the foreign government. Yeah, exactly. The Steele Dossier, we have no clue who wrote it. It could have been the Russians. It could have been the British. Guess what? It could have been our allies. Maybe they wanted to limit Russia's influence, since they control 30% of the EU's oil and gas. So maybe, that was part of an effort to make the Democratic Party and American media completely batty, so they would plunge the country into a new Cold War. And so Russia would have to, deal with a more belligerent United States. But let's not go there. Because, the Democrats are really tough. Like, Russia wouldn't want Clinton. Why? Because Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin. We wouldn't want that, would we? If you're Russia, if you're Putin, oh my God, you're so afraid of Clinton. Who in their right mind thinks that Russia would be afraid of Clinton of all people? A person who would utilize a private server in the Oval Office. You think that she would just be like, oh, okay, that's it. No. You think Clinton as president, Madam President Golden Mumu, you think she would stop using private servers? No. I mean, of course not. But anyway, and Russia and China and the whole planet hacked her servers. They were running on Microsoft Exchange 2010 software. But here, that distinction is critical, experts told us, because a foreign government that interferes in American politics is likely to have a stake in what happens on Election Day. Oh my God, you mean if a foreign government actually tells us that one candidate is engaging in criminal activity or is corrupt, well, isn't the criminal activity that Clinton engaged in more important? Or is it the fact that someone else told us? So Clinton could rob 20 banks, but the fact if a Russian, a government official tells us Clinton robbed 20 banks, that's the problem? Or is it a criminal activity? Which one is it? I mean, these people are in their own universe, their own world. The thing is, if you were, I would venture to say that generally, well, anyway, I'll just continue. While Russia's meddling was intended to help Trump win, says who? How? No, there's not one intelligence official that's actually said that. The ODNI and DHS reports have warranty disclaimers stating, yeah, you know what? Nothing we said was fact. And I explained that in my Federalist articles. While Russia's meddling was intended to help Trump win, how? By informing us that Bernie Sanders was cheated? Just because Bernie became a tool of the Democratic Party, it's still like he was cheated. He did nothing about it. He caved in 2 seconds, but, and then he fostered the same myth that said Russia informed the country that he was cheated. But says who? 20% of U.S. uranium capacity that President Obama didn't veto? How is it? There's no way that Snopes could debunk that, because it actually is within the Snopes article. It says, yeah, only President Obama could have vetoed the sale. So then why didn't he? He's a Democrat. While Russia's meddling was intended to help Trump win, Steele was contracted by Fusion GPS to find out more about Trump's ties to Russia. This is another thing. Having ties to Russia is not a problem. Again, Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin. Pretty big tie to Russia. Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin, the same guy that the House of Representatives charged with perjury and obstruction of justice. And during the Monica Lewinsky case, I was so mistreated on that one. I was just doing what any president would do in the Oval Office. We were actually talking about missile treaties, and I used a prop. That has nothing to do with a candidate soliciting something from a foreign power, former CIA intelligence agent said. Oh, really? Steele being contracted, a former MI6 agent being contracted specifically to find dirt on Trump, utilizing Russian intelligence officers at the behest of Clinton, had nothing to do with soliciting something from a foreign power. Of course it does. These people have no clue what they're talking about. I'm telling you, they look up at the sky and they say, oh, the sky is green or red or purple or whatever. No, the sky's blue. Sorry, you can say whatever you like. We know the truth. Okay? They're not even good at being corrupt. Do you understand? They're inept. They're failures at corruption. This is how pathetic they are. They're failures at corruption. You are a failure at corruption, Madam Mumu. Failure. You need to work on your criminal activity. One is collecting intelligence, no, and the other is an active measure by a foreign power to achieve a political end of some sort. There is no comparison at all. Yes, there was an active measure by a foreign power. The Steele Dossier, again, was compiled with help from an active Russian intelligence officer. They don't even know what they're talking about. It says that in the Steele Dossier, the Vanity Fair article talks about that too. A foreign government could take measure that Steele, a private citizen, would not be. A foreign government could also take measures that Steele, a private British citizen, would not have been capable of. Russia, for example, used this intelligence apparatus to hack the Clinton campaign and steal damaging information. How do we know this? Says who? CrowdStrike? PolitiFact is hilarious today, or yesterday, or whatever. How do we know this? The United States government has never confirmed or stated with certainty or guaranteed that its assessment of Russia hacking the DNC is accurate. It is not 100% confident. It is really, really highly confident, and everyone agrees. Who cares? Steele is not a member of the UK government, so it's not likely they were working with a foreign government, the Clinton campaign. So we're trying to interfere. Like, see, this is like, they're not in the same ballpark. Yeah, it's the same ballpark. Okay. It's the same ballpark. The problem is they don't, like, this is an example, okay, of when they say Trump is lying. This is a clear example of how, well, Trump is not lying, actually. They're the ones who are lying. And it's important, one thing, and look, if you lasted this long in the segment, and I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your kind words, and I've had the best comment section on YouTube since like 2016. But one thing about the next year and a half, okay, look, Clinton has 5 months to run, so she's going to run again. She will run. That's set in stone. The golden muumuu will levitate above the DNC, and throngs of liberals and progressives, oh, she's going to help us win. She's running again. Anyway, she has until what, October, November to formally declare. Anyway, she will run again. But anyway, you have to understand something. From here on out, don't worry about what people with Trump derangement syndrome think. Don't worry about what the media says. Just, you look at sources like John Solomon, Tom Fitton, Paul Sperry, Dan Bongino, Sarah Carter, Kimberly Strassel, Black Conservative Patriot. If you'd like this channel as well. There's some other trusted sources, The information is public record. You can look at the Wall Street Journal, Kimberly Strassel. You can look at brilliant journalist Sarah Carter, brilliant journalist for The Hill, John Solomon. I mean, they write for major publications. The information is public record. Okay? Gone are the days, ladies and gentlemen, where certain people would look at message boards. That's exactly what Democrats and media want. Just look at the public record. I'm reading PolitiFact and I'm tearing it apart. Okay? PolitiFact. Just read their sources, and just read John Solomon. And Sean Hannity is 100% accurate on this. Congressman Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, John Radcliffe, Louis Gohmert, Mark Meadows. I mean, there are public record sources, Lindsey Graham even. Chuck Grassley. From here on out, don't worry about what the Washington Post says or the New York Times says, because they're always going to be an extension of the Democratic Party. And they won't admit them when they're wrong. They won't even acknowledge that they've been wrong. So for 2 years, they fomented a myth that Trump worked with Russia, and then they flipped, they pivoted on in a split second to, well, he didn't work with Russia, but guess what? He could have, and he obstructed an investigation. And then now they're kind of forgetting about that, and then they went to his taxes, and then they kind of forgot about that, and now they're what are they doing now? Oh, they're going after William Barr, because what did William Barr do? Oh, well, he summarized the thing wrong. Literally, the Mueller probe says, yeah, there's no evidence. The evidence is not sufficient to charge. And so that's what William Barr said, and they're upset with him for saying that, because there's a whole lot of bad things that they had a lot of contacts. So they had a lot of ties to Russia. So the Democrats, they have more ties. They have more contacts. Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin. So what? You going to investigate him or just talk about Russia ties with Trump? Who cares? But the propaganda has worked. It has. I'm telling you, the minds of people on the left are now jello. They're so inundated with contempt and disdain and fantasies of Trump working with Russia to hack the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated. And the saddest, the most pathetic thing, the most dangerous thing, really, I mean, it's frightening, is that they've managed to erase history. But not with my voice, not with my writing, not with my advocacy, not with my channel, not with you, not with me. I repeat the same 5, 6, 7 themes, no matter what the segment's about. They already forgot that Bernie Sanders was cheated. It never happened to them, do you understand? Steele Dossier is not an example of working with a foreign power. It's just, even though they did work with the foreign power, they purchased a dossier compiled with help from a Russian intelligence officer. They never set up Trump. It was all above board. William Barr is being an authoritarian, even though they're the authoritarians, trying to basically engage in a Mueller probe that was started by Comey's leaked memos, which is illegal. And they're the ones who, the job of John O'Brennan, his job is to deceive. That's what a good intelligence chief does. His job is to deceive. Same with Comey. Same with Clapper. Their singular role is deception. That's what they're there for. You think that's exactly what they're there for. And these are the people who they love. I mean, you think of the people that left has latched onto Avenatti, Clapper. Oh, real winners. Wonderful people. And they look at Trump, they're like, oh, he's such a vile human being. It's like, no, he's not. What did he do so wrong? I want to know this. Well, he said both sides were equal. No, he didn't. He never said that. Ever said that. Ever. Nor did he imply that. Because the Tiki Torch people are in a segment of his voting base. That's another thing that leftists convinced themselves of. Oh, Trump's base. 63 million people voted for him. That's his base. Trump's base is over 60 million Americans. The only reason you had 65 million for Democrats is because Clinton outspent Trump 2-1. Trump's base is not composed of Tiki Torch people, so he doesn't have to subliminally speak to them. That was contrived by the media to paint him as a monster, to make everything morally relative, because Hillary Clinton actually did refer to black youth as super predators. She did call Mahatma Gandhi, if you can believe this, a gas station attendant. That's what Clinton said. That's what the Golden Muumuu said. But she gets away with everything. Just the other day, she said, oh, they all look alike. Kara Swisher was like, oh, Hillary. Oh. Literally said that during a conference. And the crowd was like, gasped, like, oh, my God, what? But she gets so, look, if you're a Democrat, you get away with it. You get away with it. So, you're a liberal, forget about it. No outrage there. Twitter theocracy just, absolves you of any guilt. But they have their own reality now, so don't worry about them. I'm telling you, I'm giving you advice, life advice. This is H.A. Goodman's life coaching session. Only if it annoys you to argue with people who have TDS, simply don't. If they're wonderful people, family members, don't bring it up. If they say, "Oh, Trump did this," just you don't have to even respond. Yeah, no problem, no problem. And you watch this channel, you watch other channels, and you just do your own thing. You vote for Trump in 2020. Let them live the MSNBC, CNN fantasy. As those cable stations, their ratings plummet. Let them live, live the deranged liberal life. It's not your concern. From now on, don't get, don't even, get upset if you do. Don't even question. Don't even find any. From now on, nothing should surprise you. I mean nothing. I mean, Clinton running, you'll be well prepared because you watch this channel. She's running. So, somebody sits and tells you, "Oh my God, Clinton's running." Yeah, I knew that all along. Watch H.A. Goodman. But they are completely in their own world. You'll have the progressive pundits who don't like me, the ones who specifically don't like me, will deceive their fans into oh yeah, Medicare for all is around the corner because AOC really wants it. And it'll be 2020, not one vote for a Medicare for all bill in the House. I'm not going to go into 2020 with double to triple tax collection, which is what the Mercatus study said. So you have the progressive pundits who don't like me, who are actively deceiving their base because whatever, that's what they do. Then they'll say that Trump is a horrible human being and da-da-da. Meanwhile, no abolish ICE, which is what AOC said. No $15 minimum wage. No Medicare for all, and and then you'll have and then they'll still they'll kind of push back against the Russia myth, but they won't say that Comey set up Trump because that's a little bit too much. Can't go there. Can't bring up Clinton, starting everything. Can't go there. Too H.A. Goodmanish. Then you'll have the I'm with her people who just overtly oh my God, our democracy's at stake. He's an authoritarian. He's and they'll look at Comey as this hero. And then you have you have Bernie Sanders, people to the left of Bernie Sanders who view him as a misogynist, horrible person, which is hilarious because Bernie capitulated in every way possible. And this is still not good enough. And then these are the people who fancy themselves to be to the far left of Bernie, but they'll vote for Hillary because it's very bizarre. The left is completely dysfunctional. Completely dysfunctional. Then you have other factions within the Democratic Party. All of them will fall in line. Democratic Party, liberal politics, media in general, but liberal politics is one where peer pressure rules. And if you don't fall in line, you're a heretic, you've engaged in blasphemy, and you're not cool anymore, and you're horrible. And everyone should mock you. And that's another thing they do, which is really lame. They're like, let's shame them. It's nobody cares what you think. Your political adversaries don't care what you think. So they come out. I've had hit pieces on me. This one guy at this publication is now defunct, no longer in existence. Spent 5 or 6 hit pieces. I'm for what? You don't you can't. Raw Story wrote 2 hit pieces on me. One when I was a Bernie supporter, then when I was a Trump supporter. So they're Daily Beast, of course. If you've made any kind of waves at all, the Daily Beast will come at you. And I was on the left. So this is when I was, a Bernie supporter. But whatever. What they do is they try to marginalize your voice by insulting you or demeaning you or writing unethical hit pieces, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It actually amplifies your voice. The left doesn't realize that, like, nobody cares about their disdain or contempt because nobody respects them. So they just momentarily have a lot of media influence and political power. In terms of, it's just a moment. It's what conservatives had with the Bush administration. They had a warped kind of view of, judgment and condemnation and what they thought was right. Now the left is going out of control. It's going to revert back to some kind of sanity. Not a middle ground. That's not, no, it's sanity. It won't be either of those things, and it'll just be sanity. A lot more sanity, because when Clinton loses again, the media is going to jettison all the Comeys and Avenattis and Debbie Wasserman Schultz's. That world is going to crumble. So you'll have 8 years of Trump, and then it'll be interesting. Then it'll be interesting to see what happens after Trump, because American politics will never again be the same. Nobody wants that whole we want someone presidential. Well, why don't you treat Trump in a presidential manner? Actually respect him for the office that he holds, and then he'll act presidential. He's capable of presidential speeches and grandiose, or he's capable of acting presidential. Treat him in that manner, and he's fine. You go after him, he'll go after you. But they can't stand that. They like people like Bernie Sanders. The left likes people who capitulate, and then if you capitulate, they'll leave you alone, and they'll still insult you, but they'll leave you alone. But if you fight back in any way, and you stick to your principles, oh my God, you're like a monster. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, if you've lasted 40 minutes, thank you again for sharing my segments and for helping this channel grow, and reading my writing in the Federalist, also in the Jerusalem Post, the Daily Caller. My books are below on Amazon, but her top secret emails, but her deleted emails, and debunking the Trump-Russia myth. So a lot of the things that came to be, I actually wrote about them in 2017, especially in debunking the Trump-Russia myth. But my Patreon is below if you want to support my voice long term. Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic, fantastic Friday. I definitely will be back. And check out my next 2 segments later today. Have a great Friday, everyone. Thank you.